All right. Power rankings. Power rankings for the Boisterous Division. You can see I'm recording this at about 8:30 on Friday. I would think like obviously we've got S tier, right? S tier is like the perfect tier. A is like I would change one or two things, but like I don't really know how you would go about that, and I'd probably still stick with the team you have. B, obviously it's like all right, like if you want what you want and you're having fun with the team, that's what matters most. But there's probably a couple things I would change. C is like where I'd probably start to say like, all right, you probably need to add a couple things. You need to change a couple things here and there. It's not perfect. And D is like, what the hell am I looking at? Like, I'm not sure you can make this work at all. Starting off with the New York Glycors, owned by the mighty Glycor, and it's a pretty good team. He said this when he started drafting. He just said this is just OU, which I mean, yeah, you've got like the three like monsters of OU over the past couple of years. It's a little bit of an interesting team. I don't like that you. I mean, I guess yeah. You've got rockers, solid wish user. It's not really missing a whole bunch of things. Like I think you've got about every required type. I wouldn't really say ice is required. I'm not sure how many people are going to disagree with me, but I do think we're starting off strong here. I think you've got good pivot, good support, just about everything you would need. I'm interested to see how Terra Verizian will work. I mean, I assume it's good. I think it's good. I honestly think it's low key a little bit underrated without Terra, but I mean, we'll see. And I'd like to see some cook with Reggie Gigas, hopefully at the end of the season. I think King Gambit's a little bit overrated, but I mean, even then, like, I'm not going to deny. And it says it doesn't have knockoff here on the. I don't know why it says doesn't have knockoff on the prep doc, because it does, and it does have pursuit as well. So that I think that's still solid. I just kind of wish I saw a little bit more of like a special breaker. Like, I mean, you have them. Like, Dragapult's not bad. Like, Specs Dragapult can get the job done, and maybe Specs Azelf as well, but I mean, Azelf being one stab with no Terra, I mean, it has coverage. It's not bad. I'm going to put it in A tier for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if I moved it up to S by the end. I think I might underrate Azelf a little bit in my mind. Honestly, this might be what it is. But, like, I'd just like to see exactly how you break things with, like, how you break psychic resists, Because I get that, like, Azelf has Shadow Ball and whatnot, but I just wish it had another stab attack, that it could comfortably click, because otherwise you're going to have to start making some hella reads, which, if you can, then props to you. This team has no flaws, I guess. Moving on to the next team, Machu Picchu's, right? Isn't that his name? Just Machu Picchu is his team's name, by none other than Pichu himself. Now, I know Pichu's a good player, but that's not what I'm ranking here, because obviously rankings are not like one for one how good the player is, rather how good the team is. And I have a little bit of a gripe, that the right word? A gripe with this team that I don't really like the Terra captains. And we talked about this before. I'm not really sure Quillfish is terraing all that often. So it's like whatever. And then Parasect, it's like a one-pointer. And then Porygon could be good. Like Porygon I could see, but at the same time, it's like one Terra captain every week. Like, I don't know. But I mean, obviously, you've got the Aloe. Everyone loves Aloe. It's a really common addition to a lot of teams. Your top two guys being mixed, I think, are really good. I wish you had a little bit of a better answer to sub, because I think that's Aloe's main flaw. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people think it's super underrated when, or like underpriced, I guess I should say, when it's actually a little bit overrated in my opinion, because it's very weak to sub. And you can beat it by doing Flip Encore, which I guess you do have on Valiant, but like, I don't know if you want to be running Encore every week, but I guess it, considering everything can run sub, because Encore on Tinkaton can work, but it's not super fast or anything, and you usually want to run bulk on that, especially when it's your only steal. But I like it. I like that you're going double fairy on here. I don't like that you don't have a spin blocker, and we'll see, if that really comes to bite you. I assume Porygon is Terra Ghost. Yeah, Porygon is Terra Ghost, so I guess you have something. I don't think it's bad either. I think, I mean, you're looking at the types here. I didn't even look at the types for Gliscor, yeah. Perfect. Very well done from Gliscor there. I think Pichu is pretty good as well. I mean, ground is just one of those types that you're just going to have to accept you're probably going to be weak to. And having a ground immunity as one of your highest point costs is pretty good as well. I'm going to put it in A tier as well. I might end up moving one of those to S. I just don't want to throw things in S really quick right away, Start calling shots. Next, we've got Hades Cow V4. I don't know the story behind that, even though I'm good friends with him. Whatever. It's by Hades. Hades' team. I heard he was going to draft Stall. Don't really see the Stall potential, but maybe I just don't see the vision. The team is really good. I mean, obviously you've got Palafin and Blaziken being speed boost legal is, incredible. Glastrier, one of the best Terra captains probably in the draft, I would say. I'm interested to see Braviary. The main problem that I have is I feel like I guess Nidoqueen, yeah, I guess Nidoqueen actually does like to run rocks a little bit more. I just feel like with Blaziken and Spectrier kind of being like these late game sweepers, I kind of wish you had a little bit more of an opportunity to set up spikes and stealth rocks instead of just having like an Orthworm that could die to many special hits that can't usually get a lot of things off. But even then, your spin blocker is really good. Obviously, one of the best. I mean, if not the best ghost type in draft. And then you've got a Defiant to punish Defog, which is good. And I mean, taunt users out the fucking wazoo, as many as you want. All you can eat taunt users. So I guess it could be worse. Obviously, you could see Electric is going to be a problem. I know he has Terra Ground on Braviary, but when you have one of the best Terras in Glastrier, I would prefer to use it as often as I can. And I feel like if you're forced to run Terra Ground Braviary in order to have more grass or electric resist, I was going to say grass because you don't have a Grassmon. Terra Grass Glastrier is your grass type. And it might force Nidoqueen to come every week, but Nidoqueen not exactly a bad mon either. I feel kind of boring. Sorry you guys are watching this fucking 30-minute video or however long it is for me to throw every team in A tier, but to be fair, these are what I believed to be the 3 best players in this league. And they got the top 3 picks. Low-key salty about that. Whoever made the fucking draft order. You got some working to do. But hopefully it stops. No offense to Goose Fragger here. But hopefully this isn't an A-tier team. And here I could see here we're falling into a little bit more of a problem. I don't think there's anything horrible about this team. I'd like to see a better Stealth Rock user than Mew and Tyrantrum, because neither of these mons love to run Stealth Rocks. I mean, Mew can run the Stealth Rock set, but when it's your main defensive rocker, it kind of forces Mew to be a lot more one-dimensional, which its whole thing is not being one-dimensional, so that can kind of be a flaw. Something I haven't checked is priority on these teams, but I think I assume we're good. We got Sucker Punch Polt, Sucker Punch Gambit, Extreme Speed Entei. We've got Vacuum Wave, Iron Valiant, Aqua Jet Aloe. Not the greatest priority on that side, but then you've got Jet Punch Palafin. That's actually just about it. Okay. I mean, they're not bad. Jet Punch Palafin is the best priority user in the game, maybe. I mean, King Gambit's strong, but I don't know if it's the best. But here we've got decent priority. We've got Sucker Punch Mew. We've got Shadow Sneak Aegislash. We've got Prankster Tornadus, which isn't priority, but it stops setup spammers. You might be able to T-Wave them, so in that way. But you can look at the type chart here, and the main thing obviously that points out is fire type, because your one fire wants to Terra, and I think fire and I guess it doesn't matter what his Stab Terra is. So he's got Stab Terra, which still resists fire, and then he's got fire, which resists fire, obviously. So he does have electric, I think is his last one. I'm not really sure what purpose that serves. You're still weak to ground, and you're not resisting anything you were weak to before. I don't think. Steel, I guess, but I mean, you've got fire for that, so I'm not really sure the logic behind that. Maybe he's trying to counter a specific team, which, I mean, dope, I guess, but overall, Tyrantrum doesn't have super good bulk, and neither does Lantern. They're not crazy, and you don't want to bring Lantern every week. Not only Lantern being your bulky water is your only one, but Tyrantrum being your fire resist because you don't have a fire type, it's rough. And you also don't have a fighting type, which is usually a great core. I remember I saw this team and I thought if he could get Infernape here, this is great. I think if you swap out Infernape or if you swap out Darmanitan for Infernape, I think this team becomes significantly better because you get another fire resist, you get a fire and a fighting. Holy fuck, my hand in this lighting, dude. Like a ghost. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. It fills out pretty well. It gets rid of a rock weakness, which is exactly what your team needs. It gets rid of your steel weakness for a steel resist, so that's nice. And then it gets rid of a fire weakness for a fire resist. You become even weaker to ground, which is a rough part to get around, but I mean, your team's not going to be perfect anyway. And at least one of your ground weaknesses would like to Terra out of a ground weakness. Wait, is all of its Terra types weak to ground? I just checked. All of its Terra, it's Terra Rock, Electric, and Fire. So it can't Terra out of a ground weakness. That's the problem. So yeah, I mean, this team is definitely the worst one by far. It's not bad. I'm not looking at awful, terrible things. Just some easily exploitable weaknesses as well. But it's got workarounds. It's got areas. It's still got its utility. It's got hella utility, in fact. So I think it's not bad. I'm going to throw it in B tier for now, but I think it's low B tier. Oh, I forgot I was supposed to rank these within the tiers. Okay, easy rankings. Anyways, moving on. Next, we have the Antrim Articuno, Matthew's team. And I like this team a decent amount. The rockers are, like, kind of whatever. Like, having... Like, Knuckle Stack obviously loves running rocks, but it's also Knuckle Stack. And I mean, honestly, that thing's still pretty good. Especially when you can Terra it, but it's like, you would kind of like a little bit better. And then you've got, like, Jirachi and Lando, which they don't love running rocks. You could run rocks on Jirachi and make it work pretty easily, but it's also at the same time a little bit whatever. I feel like your phasers here aren't too good. You've got, what is it, like Dragon Tail Dragalge? It gets haze as well, I think. Yeah, maybe Primarina gets haze, but it like doesn't want to run it even if it does. But I mean, like, the offense here is great. Like, Lando is a great mon. Weavile is super good, gives you super good priority. Best pursuit user maybe in draft, so that's pretty good. You've got all your required types filled out. I mean, your fighting Dark Psychic core is very, very good. So you'd love to see that. I like a bulky water. I love Primarina. It's a very good, very, very good typing combination. It walls a lot of important mons that you would love to wall. I just wish the hazards were a little bit better. I wish your grass resisted ground. That'd be kind of ideal. Just because I feel like a Mold Breaker ground move kind of rips through the team a little bit, but like that's kind of a niche, so maybe it's not that bad. Decent utility. It's a decent team. Is it better than the one we just saw? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say this is the worst team by far. I mean, so far. Didn't mean to insult his team like that. Not by far. Not by far. It is close. And again, I don't think I've seen a team that like really needs some serious reworking. Next, we've got Steering and his Wuhan Woobats. I'm seeing some pretty good things here. I'm liking just about every type. I think Matthew had that too. Everything but Bug. You've got everything but Ice. Pretty good all-around things. I like Donphan. Donphan is very good hazard control at setting him up and getting rid of him. I would like to see a little bit more setup spam from actual mons instead of just Carbink and Swalot if you're going to draft Goldango, especially with Urshifu and Gouging Fire because they're known sweepers. But having a very, very good Stealth Rock user, at least, it's not bad. However, that's like your only... Does Vikavolt not get defog? I thought it did. Like, having a really good Rapid Spinner, it's not a serious problem that can be, like, heavily exploited. What the fuck? And if your whole point with Goldango is stopping hazards, then, like, you don't really need defoggers, you know, they're not that important. Your types are not bad. Your fire not being a ice resist is kind of rough, especially when you don't have an ice type, because it makes, Goldango your only freeze dry resist, but it works. It's just you're gonna need to play around keeping that thing very healthy. I don't think it's bad. I think this is the top of B tier so far. We've got our A and our Bs filled out right now. I've yet to see a team that's even really come close to these teams in A tier. So maybe Pikachu in the 6th. Well, we've got Connor here with ASAP. A little bit of an interesting team here. First thing I see is no grounded poison, which sucks because your team doesn't really deal with toxic spikes that well. You've got Masquerain as your only defogger. You have a Rapid Spinner? No. So on a team with Masquerain as your only hazard removal, you have no spinner and 2 mons immune to toxic spikes. That's rough. That is definitely rough. No fire type is also a little bit rough to have. No fairy resist. Yeah, your steel not being a fairy resist is tough. And then you don't have a poison or a fire, which are the only other fairy resists. That is rough. Everything else on this team looks good. I mean, the mons themselves are fine. Like, I don't have a problem with any of these specific mons. I think Grumpig is like, whatever, but you didn't even draft that. You just said, whatever, someone drafted for me. I'm just not sure, like, a lot of these mons, like, I don't think Baxcalibur really has a place on this team, honestly. Or Dracovish. Like, I guess Dracovish, like, you could have one of them, but you don't need both. I would get rid of one of them for something hazard control-y, because you're Bisharp is your only rocker as well. So I would say you definitely need more hazards, and you need more hazard control, just in general. Hazard removal would be nice. And then a fairy resist, if not 2 or 3 fairy resists. Like, definitely gotta fix that up, especially since all of your top tier mons are weak to fairy. So a lot to improve on. I'm gonna throw this team in D tier. I think it's a very exploitable team. But I mean, it has the core. Like, I like Medicham, I like Ursaluna, I like one of Dracovish or Baxcalibur. I think Terra Bisharp could work. Like, I think the Terra Dark knockoffs and Pursuits and Sucker Punches. I'm interested to see how they flow, and I think that could be good. But I like Tangrowth. It's a solid mon. Azu is a great fairy type. I'm just not sure they really work together. But I think you've got the core there. I think if you can change around a couple of things, to better fit like having fairy resists and getting hazard removal and hazard control. I think you can make this team work. But as of now, a lot to improve on. No offense. Sorry, I'm gonna be harsh because at the same time, I don't want to sit here and lie to you and be like, well, you can make it work. I mean, if you're the GOAT, you can make it work, I guess. But if you're the GOAT, you can make anything work. So there's no point in even tiering your team if you're the GOAT. Next, we've got Communist Doge and Awan. I helped build this team really good. I don't think you're good enough against Steel, man. You need another Steel resistor too, I think. In seriousness, yeah, you've got great hazards here, great hazard control. I mean, you've got like maybe the best defog user in the game. Maybe. I guess Tornadus is probably better, but we're not here to spark up debates. Decent pivot, actually great pivot on this team. A lot of pivots on this team. You've got your comfort pick. The 3 waters are a little bit interesting. But I guess it's fine because they don't all... Oh, they actually all share a grass weakness. But I guess it's fine when just about everything else on your team... Like, you've got Corviknight and Heartflame who are quad grass resists. And Fortress. So you've got 3 quad grass resists. It works out. No Psychic type, so you can't fill out your core. I don't like the whole Psychic Dark Fighting core. You've got the Dark and Fighting on 1 Mon and then no Psychic type. So that could be a little bit rough. But, like, your types are fine. You beat types pretty fine. Scrafty being your Terra Captain... I don't think you have Terra Dark on it either, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. Yeah, no Terra Dark on this thing, and that's your only Ghost Resist. So that's the one thing that I would say a little bit about the typings. Everything else you could probably beat and work around pretty well. But yeah, I would prefer to have a better Ghost Resist than Scrafty, as well as maybe fill out that offensive core. But like, I would say that core is like, it's just nice to have. It's not as important as the other 2 cores, I would say, because those are more defensive. And you've got those filled out pretty well. I mean, again, Grass and Fire being on 1 Mon, we'll see how that ends up working out. Usually you'd like your Grass to resist ground, but when you have Corviknight, I mean, it's like Corviknight is the ground eater, so it can work. I'm gonna throw this at maybe the bottom of B. Is it worse than Matthews? No, I think I'm gonna put it here. I'll say within the tiers, they're not as accurate as they could be. I know everyone wanted me to rate them within tiers, but I'm doing the best I can. But if you believe you should be 1 higher up, maybe I agree with you, because I'm not exactly perfect. Next, we've got the Dusseldorf Dragapults, I think was the guy's name, Lord Sepp, and we've got a little bit of an interesting team here. He drafted Metagross. He drafted 2 Fairy weak Pokemon and drafted 1 Resist. And then he's like, nah, fuck it, resists are cringe, and went back to 2 more weaknesses. All of them can't Terra. So you're dealing with Fairy a little bit rough. Although I think he would have drafted Skeledirge a little bit earlier on if he had the chance. He just had to pick it up after someone dropped it in free agency, so I do remember that. But I mean, your hazards are nice. Your hazard controls are nice. No grounded poison, which I've always never liked, but like, a lot of these mons like to run boots. Like, Metagross is immune, Mandibuzz is immune, Skeledirge runs boots, Meowscarada runs boots a lot, Gligar's immune. Cinccino actually is Terra Poison, if I'm not mistaken, so you've got poison there. Doxbund even might run boots, maybe. So, like, you've got your options there. It's not like you need a grounded poison there. And also, like, both of the mons that you've got that are immune are defoggers. So like, I can see how you can get around not having a poison here. I'm interested to see Terra Doxbund. I've always wanted to use it. I heard someone say it was overrated and actually got dropped a point, but I actually really like it. I think it's a decent defensive Terra Captain. You can Terra Steel, right, with only 2 weaknesses, both of which are weak to, like, flying. So, like, you've got, like, that. Like, Terra Steel Doxbund and Gligar are a good... They like play off each other pretty well, I think. And they both have Pivot, I think. Yes, they do both have... they do both have Pivot. So, like, Doxbund, I wish its HP was a little bit better for Wish Passing, obviously, but, you know, it's whatever. I think you have great priority, which is always nice to have. I never made a joke about Connor's priority. His fucking priority is insane, dude. He's got so much. Oh, yeah, the other thing that I would like to say, let me pivot back to Connor. Hopefully Connor's watching this part, and he's actually watching the whole video. Speed tiers. You can't have your fastest bond being Metajam. That's rough. That is really rough. You want something faster than 100. Usually you would prefer to have, like, 2 mons faster than 100. You can see as I'm scrolling through this. Mighty Gliscor's got 3. Pichu's got 2. You would generally prefer to have more than 1 over 100, and definitely not 0. So, speed tiers could use a little work as well. But yeah, mainly I would say the Fairy weakness is tough. Now, your 2 Fairy resists are bulky, and that works out, but they're also both weak to Ghost. So sharing a weakness, and Dark, actually. So sharing 2 weaknesses on your Fairy resist could make it really rough, because they can run coverage moves and maybe rip through a little bit better than you would like them to. I think this team is incredibly top-heavy, almost too top-heavy to the point where I feel like you're going to be struggling to fit a Terra Captain into a lot of your matches. Because your 3 worst Mons are your Terra Captains. So it's like, I feel like, you're going to want to bring Urshifu every week. You're going to want to bring Raging Bolt every week. And then, well, you've got your Steel. That's pretty important. You might bring that a lot. And Meowscarada's like 17, 18 points, right? So you're going to want to fit that in, and then you need a defensive guy. Metagross can't be your only defensive guy. He doesn't have recovery, so now you need Skeledirge or Gligar or Mandibuzz, and now all of a sudden you've got five Mons. So you've either got to force a Terra Captain in on that last spot, but maybe the other one of Gligar, Mandibuzz, and Skeledirge, whichever 2 you didn't bring, maybe one of them fit on your team. And I think you could struggle to find a Terra Captain on this team coming because of how top-heavy your team is, but it's not the worst thing. And I don't get me wrong, I've had my fair share of not bringing Terra Captains times, and the games are still winnable. Not bad, but I think because of the somewhat exploitable Fairy Weakness, I'm really struggling on whether or not I want to put this in A or B. Just because of how threatening this team looks, I'm going to put it in the bottom of A. That's what I would say. And next we've got my glorious queen. Alright, enough of the glazing. From a non-biased standpoint, I think I could have made a better team. Spoiler alert, I kind of made this whole team, if it wasn't obvious. I definitely could have made something better. I would like for the speed tiers to be a little bit better here. Speed tiers are kind of a fake issue, if I'm being honest, but I didn't say that for everyone else, so it's only fair to keep this here. But, like, good hazards, decent pivot. I think Revavroom is one of the best Terra Captains in the entire game, and so I can't wait to cook with that. I wish the ice was a little bit more bearable. But, I mean, I can get around it, especially since Revavroom is going to be Terra Grounding. I think the ice issue could definitely become a problem, but we'll see. I'm not going to backseat her for her games, and I hope I made her a somewhat easy team to use. We'll see if it works out, but I think you'd like a grass type, and I think the speed tiers are a little bit of an issue. So we'll go B. I think it's high B. I'll throw it here. I think I like it. Yo, Annie.
What's up?
How do you feel about your team? I'm on your team now.
I think I feel pretty good, especially since you helped me. I feel confident.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pretty good. I think I'm going to win. I'm going to be 7-1. If I'm up against you, I'll be 7-1. But if I'm not up against you, I'm going to be 8-0. So I'm pretty confident.
Okay, that's very confident.
I'm lying, please.
You say you're lying?
Yeah.
You'll do good. You'll do good. I predict you'll go 4-4.
Ugh.
No, that's good. And you'll sneak into the playoff.
That's so bad, but thanks.
I think you'll beat Deadpool. Hopefully,
Ew.
when I rig the schedule, you'll go up. When I make the schedule, you'll go up against Deadpool. And
rigged
then I
it?
can make it. No, I said make. I make it. Make the schedule.
No, you said you're rig it? Oh my god, really?
Make the schedule.
Rig it?
Next up, Inquiz with the Portland Thorns. Not a bad team here. First terrain/weather team, we've got the Coco team. But not too much of a abuser of the terrain. You've really just got Treads and Treads and Crown. You don't really have an Unburden user anywhere or anything. Or even a strong electric mon aside from Coco itself to benefit off of the boost. So it's a little bit interesting. Obviously, you've got the best Stealth Rocks setters, basically. Treads and Clavor are really good at setting rocks when you need them to. No grounded poison, but it's fine because you drafted 2 Steels at the beginning. You've got Moltres and Altaria who are immune to it and both have defog. And Coco loves to run boots a lot anyway, so not bad. And even then you've got Mega Absol, which kind of scares some people away from running Toxic Spikes because they're hard to set up, especially when you want to set up 2 of them. Hold up, I've been talking so much, I gotta refuel. This team is heavily Edgequake weak, but what can you do? It's Edgequake. I just wish your team at the beginning wasn't so ground weak, but it helps that your fire at least isn't weak to ground. It didn't make it worse. No fighting mon, which is kind of unfortunate because I really like your Dark and your Psychics. I kind of wish that they were. I didn't put Terra Captains on this team. Fixed it. Yippee. Oh, now my camera won't focus. What the fuck? You would like at least one other Spikes or Toxic Spikes user, but I feel like I'm nitpicking at that point. It's a decent team. I'll put it I think it's middle of B. I'll put it here. I don't know. Like when it comes to the utility and you look at it on paper and it seems good, but I just feel like in practice it's not very threatening. Although Suicune is a little bit rough. I think your mons are a lot of these mons don't really feel like they come out and they threaten to do insane heavy damage. They're kind of especially. I don't really see your special wall breaker here. Your highest special attack on your mons are Moltres, which is supposed to be defensive, which I guess you can use offensively, of course. I'm not gonna tell you no. Obviously, you do whatever you want, but I would just like to see a little bit more. Next, we go into the next gimmick team, the Rain, and holy rain is this. We got 5 waters, but Rain you can't really bank. You can't really go off of typings because it's obviously most of them are not gonna have a fire unless it's maybe Moltres or something that feels like it can run a no fire move, and it can kind of benefit from it a little bit. You don't have a fighting mon, you don't have an ice mon, you don't have a psychic mon, you don't have a fairy. So a lot of these are really interesting. I would say the biggest problem is the no fairy type. This is a very classic rain team. I mean, it doesn't get more simple than this. Just about everything you want from a rain team. Terra Kilowattrel is going to be interesting. I think it's really good. I think your team is a little bit too heavy on the rain abusers, almost to the point where like just about any grass mon or water absorb mon can really make a problem for you. But to balance, I will say, to beat grass and beat electric on a team with 5 waters is an impressive feat, I will say. So I think it could be worse, and we'll see exactly how this team ends up balancing out in the future. But I think I've definitely seen worse rain teams. I think this is a decent start. I'm interested to see how this works out. As for the team itself, I mean, you got just about every Rainmon that you want on here. It's not like you're missing something incredibly bad, incredibly strong or powerful. I mean, Terra Floatzel's banned in this league, so it's like, whatever. I'm going to put you at the bottom of A tier. I think it's a pretty good team. Next up, we've got the Helsinki Hydreigons, I think. Yes, I'm correct, by Daha, and we've got the third gimmick team. We've got the Sand team. And I think this team is decently good. Now, this team doesn't benefit off of Sand nearly as much as I think it, possibly could, but it doesn't need to. Sand, you don't need to go full into Sand or anything. You've just got the extra drill and the Houndstone there. But it's really interesting on a team with Sand to not have another ground, I guess. Only Excadrill. I guess it could work. I guess it's not too weird. Maybe I'm going crazy. Your only fairy needing to switch in order to get that fairy type could prove to be a problem. And you're still weak to ice, which is the next problem, that your team is very ice weak. You've got Cinderace as your only freeze dry resist and Jellicent as your only other normal ice resist. Although I'm pretty sure Chestnut has Terra Steel, so it could be worse, but it also could be better. I think your pivot could also be better. I would like to see, something more, because Golbat, you don't really love to bring it all that often. And then you've just got like Volt Switch and U-Turn. You've got no Flip Turn users. You've got no, I don't think, any Parting Shot users. I guess you do have Baton Pass on Latios if you really want to make that work. Oh yeah, I actually lied. I completely forgot about Stoutland. So Stoutland's good, but Stoutland, the interesting thing about it is it's your one of your 2 Ghost Resists. Now Tyranitar is one of the best Ghost Resists, don't get me wrong, but like a lot of Ghost Mons will just run fighting coverage, and that's gonna eat into your Tyranitar. And I think that could be proven to be rough. It's going to be tough for you to play around Ghost. Not impossible, but tough. And then, again, your only rock resists being Chestnut, who might Terra out of it, and Excadrill. So it kind of forces you to keep Excadrill pretty healthy to tank rock attacks. Although, actually, I'm not sure Chestnut, because I think 2 of his Terra types on Chestnut are fighting and steel. So I think he's oftentimes still going to be a rock resist. I mean, you've obviously got better speed control than probably anyone else in the game. I mean, you've got hella Thunderwave users, you've got webs, you've got Sand Rush things. You've got like Agility Latios, Agility Cinderace, and then Dragon Dancing as well. So you've got your options, but you've got your flaws as well. I mean, this is just about the definition of like a middling tier, so I'm going to throw it in the middle of B tier because I think it is middling. Next, the greatest team ever built. Huzzah! Everyone bow down to the king, whoever that may be. Who made this team? Whose draft team is this? Oh, wow, it's mine. That's weird. I didn't mean to hype up my own team like that. I'm actually super humble. People say I'm the most humble person of all time. I agree. I think I'm incredibly humble. In actuality, I think this is probably one of the worst draft teams I've built. It's not bad by any means, but it's just, there's quite a few little flaws here and there that I would like to nitpick a little bit. For example, the 2 dragon resist, Steel and Fairy, are on 1 Mon, which leaves me to have 1 dragon. Now, it could be fine when I only have 1 dragon weakness, and that's a type that would Terra out of a dragon weakness into a dragon resistance more often than not. So it's not the worst, but it's still a problem. I don't have as much pivot as I would love to have. I also just think this team really lacks like a first round pick. And I mean, yes, I was in the late draft because I'm going in order here. So, I had the 3rd to last pick, but like Gallade was still there. And during Grace, I kind of, almost started to work around it and try to do better. Try to build a team with Gallade instead of Mawile, but couldn't really figure out exactly how to work. I think I ended up finding a team that was better, but less fun for me to use. Because, like, it didn't have Okidogi, and I kind of want to use Okidogi, so. I like that there's no red in my type charts. That's obviously nice to have. I wish my normal type was better. I wanted to run Terra Normal Flygon, but Fire just feels so much better, so I went with that. I wish I had a better Rapid Spinner. Cryogonal's usable, but, it's just a ton of little nitpicky things here and there that, I'm a little bit upset about. Yada yada. I mean, a lot of it's not that bad, but I also want to keep myself humble because, like I said, I'm the most humble person on the planet. So, I can't hype my team up too much. Yeah, 1 steel resist and Greninja. That's another thing that's really bad. Like, I've got quite a few exploitable things. My steel not being a steel resist, my fire not being a steel resist, my water being my only steel resist. I don't have an electric type. It is tough. I think having so many little things to exploit, I think could really gang up on me, and I could prove to kind of be fucked. But I don't know if I want to put myself in C tier. Not any reason to be with me. I just, like, I don't know if I belong in B tier or C tier or not. I'll go ahead and throw myself in C tier just because it's empty and I kind of want to be honest. Next, we've got the East Bay Blastoise. And this team is interesting. I like it. Iron Moth as the first pick is kind of weird, but I mean, Great Tusk came back around, so I guess it didn't matter. Incredible hazards and hazard control. Great hazards. I love Screamtail. It's very good. I'm interested in these Terra Captains. I want to see Bibarel. So we'll see. I like that. I'd like a little bit of more pivot. This team, I mean, it has it. I guess it's fine. You know, you've got the U-turns on Rillaboom and Blastoise. Flip turn on, or not, I mean, Iron Moth. Flip turn on Blastoise. But it's interesting. I also would like to see Camerupt, but it's probably not coming because it's not the best Firemon on your team and it's not the best Groundmon on your team, which is good. Anyway, now that that's fixed. I'd like to see a Dragon on this team. Basically, my only flaw. Because you've got a lot of double up types. Like, Camerupt doesn't need to be here, really. Even Electro doesn't need to be here, but, you know, I get the speed tier. That makes sense. I guess it kind of does almost need to be here, but, like, you don't need Skuntank. You've already got a Dark and a Poison. You've already got a Fire and a Ground. You know, you don't even really need Bibarel. So it's like, you're doubling up on a lot of types, which is kind of rough when you don't have a Dragon. So I would kind of like to see a Dragon somewhere on here, like maybe, I don't know. Just like, in my opinion, I would probably get rid of Skuntank and Mega Camerupt for a Dragon. Probably one that could Terra and make it a little bit of an offensive mon there. But overall, I mean, the synergy is great. I'd like to see maybe one more Flying Resist, but like, it's, you know, Oh, one more Rock Resist as well. Yeah, that would be nice too. But not bad by any means. I think this is a decent team. Not too many gripes. Is this better than Pag, the Rain team? I'm gonna say it's worse. I'm gonna throw it in the bottom of it. And last but possibly least, we've got the last quote-unquote gimmick team, the Psychic Terrain team, but it's like, whatever. It's not really Psychic Terrain. It's just, like, Sneasler's really the only benefit from Psychic Terrain, so it's like, whatever. But this team is interesting. No Fire type is the first thing that I notice. It's a little bit rough, but, I mean, you can get around it. I mean, you know, you've got a very good Steel type, so, you know, the Fire being there for a Fairy resist is not as necessary. And you've got enough Fire, resource resist as is. You know, because you can get the Miltank Thick Fat to add another Fire resist. So your normal resisting Fire can be nice. But the biggest issue of them all, you've got one Hazard Remover in Rapid Spin Serena. That is it. No Defogger on this entire team, and that can prove to be a little bit rough. I'm not sure what Fire options have Defog that maybe you could find a way to fit on your team without losing too much value. Lapras is probably the first thing I would get rid of, but I don't think that's, you know, cheap. I mean, Lapras and Haunter for a 1-pointer and a Fire with Defog. I'm not sure what options you have. Still not a bad team, though. I mean, Lele and Sneasler are already good enough as is. I think those are great. The main thing I would say is, like, sometimes you'd like to run Fake Out Poison Touch Sneasler. Sometimes you'd like to run Aqua Jet or Sucker Punch Samurott. Sometimes you'd like to run E-Speed Zygarde. And you know, you're kind of prohibiting yourself with the Lele. But these mons can still run very easily with no priority. It's not like their gimmick is priority like it would be if you had like a King Gambit or something that clearly is mainly ran for priority. So it's a nice little team where it's like you have priority if you feel like you need it. And then you've got but like mons that don't really feel like they need it and aren't like super punished or anything by not being able to use them. I'd like to see a little bit more pivot, but I mean, you've obviously got Jolteon, which everyone knows is an incredible Terra Captain. Everyone loves it, so I think this team can still cook pretty easily. I think it's probably somewhere in B tier. I'm gonna go ahead and move Gliscor's up now. I think it's definitely one of the best looking behind. I think it is the best team, even with King Gambit, which I'm not super high on. And I'll go ahead and throw Hades up there too. I was just too afraid of going back-to-back S to start out, to be honest. And then I'll average these out. I'll put Smoliv at the bottom of B tier, which means moving everything else down in C tier. There we go. I think I'm going to give myself the second worst team. Maybe not. I'll do myself a little bit of justice. I do think I'll be at the top of A tier. I'll move A1 down here. I think I like this. So they're ranked within their tiers, but the rankings aren't perfect within the tiers. The main thing are the tiers themselves. And to all the people that skipped to this point to see the end of the tier list, not cool, man. Come on. Watch the whole video, please. Or at least watch your section of the video, at least. All right, day 2. On to the Benevolent Division after they finished. A lot later than my division, I will say. I know how to mod my own division, Destroyer. Anyways, let's move on. Let's not waste any time. First up, we've got Connor's Carpal Tunnel Company is the name. Looks like an honestly solid team from the start. That kind of fades off near the end there. I mean, obviously, Dragapult round one, pick one. I mean, it went pick one in both divisions here. I mean, it's like that for a reason. The main problem that I would say here, I think you're going to end up relying on Excadrill as a defensive mon a little too often because it's your only rock resist and your only real fairy resist. I mean, I assume something here has like a fairy resist Terra, but I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure Embor's Terra was fighting and not fire. So, and then it's one of your 2 flying resists. So it seems like it's your main answer to a lot of things. One of your 2 normal resists as well. But I mean, without looking at the synergy, like Dragapult's a great mon, Darkrai's a great mon, Excadrill's a great mon, Melodic is a great defensive water, Thundurus is pretty good, Mew can do whatever the hell you want it to, you know? And it's like, those are good mons. I would like your fairy to be 1, obviously like a little bit better of a fairy, and 2, it's like starts out as a fairy instead of you feeling like you might have to mega it turn 1 or something every game, because then it you know, it's only a dragon switch in and a dark switch in after you mega, so we'll see how that goes, but I still think that mon is a little bit overhated, to be honest. Your speed tiers are good. You have Mew, so your utility is as good as it needs to be, and I like this team. It's threatening. I feel like it had the same problem as one of the teams that I mentioned before in the Boisterous Division. Your Terra Captains, they're just so much worse than your top tier mons that I feel like you struggle to bring a Terra Captain, like, a lot. Because, like, Dewpider, Meganium, and Coughing, they're almost meme picks. So it's just like, where are you fitting in Embor? You have to figure out how to drop it. I mean, like, it's probably replacing Mega Audino if it comes, because I don't know if you're bringing both of those, and then it's like you have to drop a top tier mon in order to fit it. So that's the one thing I'll say is like no Terra could come to hurt you, but these are still some scary mons. I like this team. I like it. I think I'm gonna go A. I went A with the first team in the old one, and I was thinking about putting it to S. I don't feel the same way about this one. I think it's a good team. I don't think it's near S. I think it's like mid A, maybe low A. I think it's fine. I think it's good and it's scary. It's a scary team to prep against, that's for sure. Next we have the Adrestian Braviaries. You'd try saying that 5 times fast. You've got the same problem that the last team kind of had with their ground steel, is that like it's your only flying resist. You have no freeze dry resist. Although it is a niche move, it's still kind of rough that you don't have one. But Toxapex is a good ice resist at least, so I'll give you that. And your team is just generally bulky, so like a flying resist isn't as important when like a lot of these mons could just generally be offensive switch-ins at the very least. I mean, for what it's worth, I love Gouging Fire and Rillaboom. I'm just afraid of what you have to bring other than that. Like Electro Hisuian, I'm interested to see what that thing can do with Terra, but I feel like your speed tier presence is kind of non-existent because Ribombee is not as much of a threat as it could be. I guess it can quiver. It can definitely quiver. But like I like your hazards, I like your utility. I wish you had a fighting mon. An offensive fighting mon I think would be good here instead of one of your defensive guys. The speed tiers are a little bit off and the team's just a little bit too defensive, but I mean, I'm interested. This team definitely has pieces. I think I don't know if I put it in B or C. I think C probably. It's like high C. I'd say so. Like high C. Shout out high C. Next, we've got the Bouffalant Bills by Destroyer, and this team is good. I like this team a lot. Their offensive speed tier isn't like totally there, because like Electabuzz is a 1-pointer and Cyclozar is like not totally offensive. But like Glalie is still decent, and Blaziken basically has the high speed tier of them all. Like, as if you just bring Protect. So it's like, it works, and the core is still there. Pivot on this team is good. Utility on this team is good. Your weak to fighting is the only one, and that's like not that big of a deal because it's like 3 to 4, so it's like whatever. And also one of yours is Terra, and both of its non-stab Terra types resists. I think Fairy and Ghost are his 2 non-stab Terra types, so I mean it's 100% a workaround. The one thing I'll say is like no flying mon is interesting. I mean you get past it because you have 2 abilities. I'm just afraid that a Mold Breaker team can really rip into you with a ground move. But even then, like you've got Bulu, so it's even like Haxorus, you just bring Bulu and it at least halves the damage, makes it a little bit easier to deal with. But yeah, like Mold Breaker ground moves could rip through you, but like that's such a niche scenario that it's not that big of a deal. I think a Wish Pivoter would be very nice, especially with Orthworm. I'm kind of pointing out what could turn an A tier team into an S tier team, so I think this is still A tier. I'm putting it like mid to top of A tier. I like this team a lot. I think it's very good. Maybe leaning towards mid to bottom of A, just because like again, like Blaziken is your only offensive threat, so it's like if someone brings like a Scarfed Mon that's anything above 80, you don't really have anything to outspeed it unless you bring in Bulu and then potentially sack it and then go Hitmonlee for your Unburden boost, which I guess isn't as bad as it could be. I also wish your ground was a little bit better than Runerigus, but like, again, just nitpicky things, like it's still fine as a ground mon to have. Next we've got Ronald's Reggie Big Asses. Nice. By Fishy. We got the Iron Valiant team. Makes a lot of sense here. The types are like, you see some red here, but they fill each other out fine. Like one freeze dry resist, maybe, but like is this a problem? But again, it's a niche scenario, so it's whatever. Let's say great utility. All right, pivot. Great Terra Captains. I really love the Terra Captains. I want to see some Swellow cooking. I'm very interested to see that. I think that thing has like a Dark Horse kill leader potential, possibly. Or at least, you know, high up on the kill leaderboard. I think this team is great. It has just about everything you need. Solid grounds, you know, like top tier ground, top tier steel, top tier fairy. No defensive fairy is like kind of like whatever. Like that sucks. But like that's almost about the only thing that I would say. But yeah, this team is great. I think it's close to S tier, but I don't think I'd put it quite there. I think one of the biggest things is like the scare factor. When you're looking at a team for the first time, how scary does it look to go up against? And I don't exactly feel that with this team. Although I do see the scare. It just doesn't hit you at first glance. Like there's not like a ton of threats that feel like they're incredibly hard to prep for going into it. So I'm putting it top A. I think it's still very, very good team. Next we have the New England Naganadels by Block, and this is an interesting team for sure. Interesting. I will say Rock is a weird type to have 3 Mons of. I get one of them's Glimmet. It doesn't really matter. I'm just, you know, making fun. I wish your Dark Psychic fighting trio was a thing. It just feels like it's like not great. I mean, your Fairy Dragon Steel Core, on the other hand, very, very good. But, you know, you got no Fighting Mon, you got no Psychic Mon. Your team is pretty weak to fighting, with Chandelure being your only resist, despite having 2 flyings. Kind of crazy. And then, yeah, again, no Psychic. Rocks and knockoff spam generally feels like it might be too strong against this team as well. Like, that could be rough. But, I mean, I like the core idea is good. I think screens on Regieleki is very strong on this team, with a potential setup Vaporeon and, like, Glastrier as well. And then Zygarde, obviously. Minior as well. This team doesn't, like, scream to me as ass or anything. It just doesn't scream to me as amazing. It's kind of middling. Like I said, I wish you have a Fighting or a Psychic Mon, or maybe both. No Normal Mon is, like, whatever, because you have a bulky Dark, so it works out as your Ghost switch in. So yeah, I just like another Fighting switch in, and then a Fighting and a Psychic Mon. I don't think this is bad. I think it's like top of B. I mean, it's the only one in B right now, so it's top and bottom of B at the current moment, but I think it'll flesh out to be like top of B. Next we've got Golden Godango by X Ninja. Not too bad. The types are whatever. Quagsire, your only fire resist. Iron Crown, your only ice resist. It's a little bit troublesome. I think a Firemon is really what you're missing. Like a lot here, just because it gives you that extra fire resist, that extra ice resist, and extra freeze dry resist as well, and it helps you even out against fairy. I think it could help you out a lot here. But I mean, your pivot's great. But I mean, your pivot's nice. Your top 4 having pivot. I mean, even though Hawlucha's probably never running it. Iron Crown may be the best mon in electric terrain. I think a dragon would also fit on this team a lot, especially since you can afford it. I don't know how that would evolve with the types, but I mean, the only other thing I'd say is like your speed tiers are kind of rough because of the fact that no one's really speed creeping Hawlucha, because Hawlucha's going to be double speed. So it's like anything that's lower than 130, that's higher than 98, like a lot of those mons are going to be able to run modest on you because they don't need to worry about outspeeding Hawlucha. But that's only like kind of annoying. The main thing I would say is 1 fire resist, 1 ice resist. Like, it's not something you would love to see. I think I'm still leaning towards like high B. The threat is still there. I mean, I love Terratoxicity. Corsola Galar is a good mon. Sorry, I just wanted to say that to see what Hades would say about it if he sees this part. I'll put it like mid to high B. I'm gonna put it under Block's team right now. I think Block edges you out as the best B tier team right now. Next we have the Shelmet Squad by Farouk. This team is really interesting. I like it. My first gripe with it is I wish you had kind of an offensive Terra. Like, all of these mons are built to like take hits, and then the Terra just helps them tank hits even more, which, I mean, it works, but whatever. Chiyu is your only ice resist, and that's not a mon that's defensive. Could be like an issue. And then Corviknight being your only fairy resist is like, eh. But like, it's a good fairy resist, so you've still got that going for it. This team kind of starts to get really defensive after your first 2 picks. But Ogerpon, I mean, that might as well be like a middle round pick. I think you've got the offense to balance it out. A little bit of a speed gap between 90 and 67 could be a little annoying. Overall, not a bad team. I think the pivot's good. I think the utility's good. It's mainly the type issues that I have to worry about. And then the defensive Terras. But I mean, it's still fine. I just don't think defensive Terras are as important when you have Clef, Corviknight, and Swampert. That's all. But it's still good. And I mean, your team, not every team needs to be like hyper offense. I think this is like bottom of A. Could be top of B, but I'll throw it in A tier, I think. Next, we have the first Ludicolo team. The solo Ludicolo is the name of this team by AA. Or double A? I think it's double A. I like this team decently. Like, you're losing to ground as your only type, and that's fine, because one of them is Corsola, so who gives a fuck? And there's so many Terra Captains near the end that, I don't know, it might balance out. I mean, you've got threats all around. I kind of wish you had more, like, known defensive mons. For how it works, like, this is definitely a hyper-offense team, and I think if you know how to use it, then that absolutely works out very well. One of the things I'll say is, you've doubled up on a lot of types here. I kind of wish if you were going to double up on all of those, you would double up on either Steel or Fairy, because those are obviously, like, the only two types that resist Dragon. So to combine them onto one mon means you have one Dragon resist. So, you know, if you're going to draft double Water and double Rock and double Electric and double Normal, you know, it's like, I kind of just wish you'd get another Steel or a Fairy at some point near the end when you're drafting all of these low tier mons. Still a solid team. I think I would prefer some wish support on this team for how many bulky mons that you have that don't have recovery, like Wash, Double, Mega Mawile. I guess Double actually can run rest pretty easily, but still an effective team nonetheless. I just wish that it had a little bit more bulk, but I think that's just because I'm a balanced team fiend. So I'll go top of B. I think there's nothing that like super stands out to me here. I kind of wish your speed tiers were a little bit better. Like, Infernape and Galvantula being your fastest mons are rough. I get that you have webs to balance that out, but that's assuming that you can keep webs up in order for your speed tiers to be worth it. But you do have good Scarfed mons, so you can get by it. I like this team, though. It's a good team. Next, we've got the New Jersey Meatballs by Baby Cody Is My Religion. This team is really good. Obviously, you've got, like, maybe the best dark fighting psychic core that you could possibly get. The types you're losing to, it's, like, fine because of how much they are. You didn't have to cut me off. Like, it's like, yeah, you're losing to fire, but you still got 3 fire resist. You're losing to ice, you still got 2 ice resist. Like, I guess, like, Copper Aja being your only freeze dry resist is, like, sucks, but again, it's super niche. And then flying, you've still got 2 solid flying resists. Like, it's fine. I think flying is going to be the biggest issue, especially since Copper Aja might tear out of steel in a lot of instances. But still, you've got great pivot, you've got great offense, great defense as well. This team is pretty damn good, pretty amazing, I would say. Not much to nitpick on after all the things I said. I guess I would prefer a better rocks user, just because, like, those like, I think Copper Aja and Palisand, like, feeling like you might be forced to bring them if you need stealth rocks could be annoying. But I don't know, that's super nitpicky. I think this team is very good. I'm gonna put this at the top of A tier. I think it's better than Fishy's team. This is funny because I know they're friends and I'm about to pin them against each other for whose team is better. Yeah, I'm gonna say that her team is slightly better than Fishy's. I think so. I'll leave it at that. Next we have I Love Aiko More Than Cooper by some no-name cutie fox loser no one's ever heard of. I don't know. I'm not jealous. For people who don't know how she drafted, she just completely randomized just about everything that she could. And I'm not gonna beat around the bush here and try to say like, Solrock's your only flying resist. Because, I mean, you look at this team, yeah, it's ass. I think Fox can cook with it because I know she's a good player, but at the end of the day, we're not rating how good they're going to end up being. We're rating the teams, and this team is ass, simply put. It's D tier, there's no need to explain that. And now we have the second Ludicolo team, the Looney Ludicolos by Raffmon. And this team has scare factor. Gliscor is very good utility on this team. And then obviously you've got Roaring Moon Spectrier, very, very good. Metagross is a very solid mon. Sylveon is a great defensive mon and a good wish passer for Tentacruel, which is a very good mon as well, whose main problem is no recovery. I think the Terra Captains are good. I think no Firemon is like kinda like the fact that you can't fill out that core. But it's fine because one of the main reasons you grab a Firemon is for Will-O-Wisp coverage. Like that's one of the big reasons a lot of Firemons are used, and you still have a great Will-O-Wisp mon that loves to run Will-O-Wisp in Spectrier. This team covers its weaknesses pretty well. The one thing that I would say, one flying resist, but the flying resist is great, and it cancels out by having 2 flying weaknesses that are probably almost never coming at the same time, and one of them can Terra out of the flying weakness. So it's like, I think you're still covering yourself really good. I don't really have much bad to say about this team. Almost nothing wrong with it. I'll put it in S. I think so. It might be like a low S, maybe, but like it's not a high S, I'll say that. But even like I could see like mid to low S, like it's still S. And I'm definitely not afraid to call it the best team in this division and maybe in the league. I think it's very, very good. Next we have the Fighting Lander Asterians by Red Sox Alex, and this team is ground weak. Very, very ground weak. I know 2 of your mons can Terra out of it, but it's like only one of them can at a time. I don't know how often you're bringing both, to be fair, but like no flying mons, so you're stuck with Latios Levitate as your ground switch in. That can prove to be scary. I still think this team is pretty good. 110 to 87 is a big speed drop in that specific range that could cause some problems, but it's fine because for anyone who's played OU for long enough, you know that Great Tusk hits 300 speed, and you know that base 100s that don't run a plus speed nature hit 299. So like 100s are the big part. So it's like the fact that you can at least outspeed base 100s is good enough on its own. I feel like Empoleon is your only realistic defogger, but you can get behind that because you have 2 rapid spinners, even though one of them sucks. One of them's also maybe the best rapid spin user in all of draft. So I mean, your hazards are good, your general utility is good. Those are the main things I guess I'd have to say. Your utility is great, your speed tiers are pretty good. I would say the big issues are just like the speed tier gap, ground weaknesses, and then also no fairy is kind of weird. Especially because I don't think your Jolteon can Terra Fairy, which feels a lot better than Terra Ghost, I think is what it was. I would switch that in my opinion to at least have some type of fairy potential, because right now you don't have a single Fairymon, which as you can see causes Empoleon to be your only dragon resist. It's interesting, there's not many weaknesses that I would say this team has, which would make me think I'd want to put it high, but the weaknesses that it does have are pretty bad, like detrimental. Like that ground weakness is detrimental. I'll put it in like middle of B tier, which I guess is the bottom. Yeah, it's like the bottom because everything else that I put was like high B, so middling B tier. But right now it's, you know, bottom. Next we have the Miku Maniacs by Vixie. I really like the Terra Captains. I'm a commonly known Fergaraf defender and lover. Pause. Not, you know what I mean. There is a glaring problem on this team. See if you can point it out before me. Did you guess no flying resist? Because you'd be wrong. Although that is a problem, I can kind of see you getting out of it because your only flying weakness is a mon that can Terra out of it. You generally still want a flying resist, but it's not the biggest of issues, although it definitely is still an issue. The biggest problem is I don't think I've ever seen a draft team where Moltres Galar is the fastest mon. These speed tiers are abysmal. I mean, the only way to really get around it, I mean, obviously you've got like Scarfs, but like it's like sand Dracovish. Like, I don't know. There's just like, I get that you have Trick Room, so it's alleviated a little bit, but it's still a huge problem, and you can't rely on Trick Room every week. The overall mons themselves are very good. I think I really like the mons. It's just like, just about anything can run specs on you, and you're outsped by everything except maybe the one Choice Scarf mon you decide to bring. So it could cause a huge problem. Also, Cleavor being your only Rocks mon is like, but at least it's one that like, you know, you'd like to enjoy bringing. It's just like the speed tiers is so rough. It's so rough. And then the flying resist problem is pretty big too. I'll say like mid C tier, I think. But like the mons are there. I like all these mons individually. It's just like the speed problem is very apparent. Here we've got the opposite of a speed problem. We've got Saigai Circus by the Saigai himself. You've got 7 mons above 100 speed, or 100 speed or above. This is crazy. You've got Prankster the team. If you weren't aware, that's obviously the meme that this person is drafting with. Just a ton of Prankster mons, and then you've got Scolipede. There's a story behind that as to why you round 1 Scolipede. I'm not gonna get into it. And then just Palafin and mon to boost Palafin. Obviously, this is like a D tier team. I mean, it's a ton of Pranksters, but it's funny. I mean, again, it's like the random team with Fox. It's like, you're not here to have advice given to you. Like, it's just a funny team. It's D tier, but like, you've got Palafin, so it's better than Fox's D tier. I give you props for finding a way to draft Palafin and still have your team be D tier. That is impressive. Next, we've got the Colossals by Cole. A lot of Coles there. And I said earlier that Baby Cody, I think is who it was, yeah, had the best dark psychic fighting trio that you could possibly get in draft, but this is giving it a run for its money. This is a pretty damn good team. You're missing a little bit of a couple of crucial types. I would like a spin blocker. I think Ditto might be Terra Ghost if I remember correctly, but like, And then I would like a Firemon, preferably one that has Will-O-Wisp. But like, this is fine. Like, your pivot's good. Your speed tiers could definitely use some work as well. But like, it's still a threatening team. It's a threatening team with a good defensive core, and I think that overall on that, on paper, automatically makes it at least decent. I just think I'd prefer it to be a little bit better on the nitpicky things like the speed tiers and your utilities. Like, all right, I guess no Firemon, no Grassmon, no spin blocker. Like, these things, like, they're not like hugely important, but they do add up. I think like bottom of B tier. I like bottom of B tier for this, but it's gonna be a tough team to prep against. It's got threats. And lastly, we have the Aurora Ninetales, and this team looks good as well. Again, no Firemon, kind of annoying, especially since your team is weak to fire. I'd give you another resist, but MLOP after Mega being your only Dark Resist, and MLOP normally being your only Ghost Resist is the big problem. You need a Darkmon on this team, like badly. I would say you badly need a Darkmon. I don't know if one of your Terras is Dark. It probably is. I probably could check. I'm probably not going to. I lied. So you do have Terra Dark Dust Noir, which is like, all right, but like, obviously you're not going to bring that every week. So I would still prefer to have a Darkmon on this team. But still, I like it. I mean, the speed tiers are there. Their pivot's good. Your utility is great. You've got good hazard removal. You've got defensive mons to cover your wall breakers. I think I'd prefer a better special wall breaker than like, what, Calm Mind Guard or something? Or maybe an offensive Zapdos. But still, MLOP is a great mon. Zapdos is a good mon to balance it out with. I like this team, but no Darkmon is really rough. I think it's fine. It's like mid to bottom B. I'm going to put it, I think here is kind of where I want it. Yeah, I like it there. And there we go. Power rankings are completely done. I think I like how this looks. I will be recording all of my games and uploading them onto this channel. If you're interested in watching those, maybe you're scouting me to see how I play, whatever it may be, go ahead and subscribe if you want, or if you want to support me. Also, if you want to like the video, like. I'm pretty sure if I say like, the like button down there like goes rainbow or something crazy, man. I don't know. I'm not a YouTuber, man. But yeah, I'd appreciate general support. I'm gonna stop yapping. If you want to watch my battles in this season, they'll be posted on this channel. So thank you. Peace out.